Got it.
A good day, everybody. I am Abdi Lajavardi, and welcome to another segment of Education for a Better World. I'm delighted today to have one of my dear friends and colleagues, Dr. Ray Brogan, with us. We're going to get to know him and his perspective on education. Welcome, Ray. We are delighted to have you in our program.
Hey, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Ray, do you mind with the starting? Tell us something about you so we get to know who you are, where were you born, what your journey took you to this point.
Okay. I was, I was born in Northern Virginia, and technically it's just after World War II. So there's so many track housing being put up really quickly to take care of all the veterans who needed homes for their family. So the beginning of the baby boom. My home was really, it was a small house in an area where there were a lot of people from around the country who were mostly veterans who were just starting their families. And it was poor, but we were all poor, so there's nothing to compare ourselves to. Then my parents moved into McLean, Virginia, which at the time was still very country, And McLean, with very little effort, has grown into this amazing, I don't know if you say metropolitan area, but it's still, they have many McMansions there. Downtown McLean has several office buildings for international organizations and national finance companies. So it's very much, very, very different from what I grew up with. And the place where I was, my parents brought me home from the hospital to is Plymouth Hills, which at that time was poor people living in these little boxes. And now that also has grown up to the point where there's a lot of McMansions, and even those boxes that stayed behind are like worth almost $1 million. So it's almost as if my hometown has evaporated. But it was interesting, just going from Plymouth Hills to McLean, where McLean, even though his country was obviously developing into something, I had the Plymouth Hills personality, and it really affected my life. I wanted to take on challenges all the time just to show that I was as good as the McLean kids. I just realized that recently, looking at my grandson, he's about as old as I was when we left Plymouth Hills, and I realized so much of his personality is already developed, And I look back at my life, oh yeah, my personality also was pretty much well developed at that time. A lot of the things that have happened in my life. I mean, we weren't really in poverty, but we were poor, and we had to do without. We had to postpone getting things. All those things kind of affected me. But I really liked school, and school really gave me an edge I was looking for in childhood. And I had my ups and downs in high school, particularly because, that was the time of the Vietnam War and a lot of social upheavals in America that I felt. And it was really hard to plan a career and plan what my adulthood would be like I was worried about getting drafted. So I did go to college, but I didn't do so well. And I left and had many wonderful world experiences. Until 32, when I was 32 years old, I realized, I probably need a bachelor's degree. So I went back at that time, and everything was so different. My motivation for learning, the way people treated me and respected me was completely different. I mean, like professors. When I first went to college, I was just a kid. I didn't know how to earn respect. I wasn't expecting any respect from professors. But at 32, I had some real life experiences, and there was change. My motivation changed. My professors were more respectful, and so I was really eager to learn. And from that, I went on to get a master's, and then I just wanted to see how close I could get to a PhD, and just one thing led to another until finally a professor told me, hey, you have to decide your dissertation topic. And I was so surprised. Wait, they want me for a dissertation? One thing I liked was working towards my PhD. I was a teaching assistant, and the course that I was chosen to teach was child development. And I had 2 little children at the time. So teaching child development seemed to me like just walking in and telling stories about my children, you know. I knew the theory behind it, but to see it always being, you know, played out in the lives of my children was really fascinating and inspiring to me, something I was really willing to share with people. And so my dissertation topic was, standards in education. You know, what can we do as researchers to improve the situation in elementary school? During that time, I had some really good experience with these elementary school teachers that I in their classroom, trying to help them to really improve their delivery and assessment.
So do you care about maybe telling us something about your research? This is very interesting. You know, you've done a lot of work on elementary school, and what is it that we can do in elementary with our young students to make education more fun and effective?
Oh, yeah. So the teachers approached our school and asked us if we could come up with an achievement test, especially for the 4th grade math class, which was supposed to have a mastery element to it. We wanted to be able to say these math students or these 4th graders, when they left 4th grade, had mastered 4th grade math. So we did all the things you have to do for an achievement test, and we had large number of items, you know, and it was very strange how one item worked and the other one didn't. I mean, how come 5 plus 7 worked, but 8 plus 4 didn't? You know? So the idea was, how well does the item represent overall math mastery? So I developed, my crew and we developed an interesting achievement test. But as far as my dissertation was concerned, I had to take that test that we developed and refine it, and also deal with the teachers establishing standards for that. What I found out was mastery. There is a way for all children to achieve mastery, but parents and teachers cannot just say, look at the kids and say, yes, you achieved, no, you didn't. Yes, you passed, no, you didn't. You know, that's not the way to achieve mastery. We had a very interesting way of scaling it. So this child achieved math mastery. This child is almost there. This child is just below mastery, and this one, no, they're like at the beginning. We had a 4-step scale, we had a 3-step scale, and between the 2 of them, where the 2 interconnected, the teachers found some really clear ways of describing their children. Especially, this describing the children was especially important because it gave some kind of impetus to solving the problems of those that were having troubles reaching achievement. An interesting anecdote was there was one child who he came into the class and the teacher said, you know, I really think he's not going to be able to do well in this test because he doesn't do well on any test. But when we looked at the results, here are his results. And this child that the teacher didn't believe in had achieved mastery. And what happened there? So the teacher interviewed the child, you know, and asked the child, what happened? How come you did well in this test, but in the classroom you never do well on tests? And because it was for a research project, the test wasn't going to contribute to their grade, and that's what the child said. You told me it doesn't count, so I just ran off with it, So the child really had the ability, but just telling them something simple like, it doesn't contribute to your course grade, really inspired him to, well, give up anxiety. And anyway, he had anxiety, he let it go so that he could invest himself into, showing how smart he was.
Well, thanks very much for sharing that with us, Ray. But one of the other thing I noticed, when I work with different schools or different school districts as a consultant, especially with math or science and some of these topics, one of the big challenge that exists, and especially in America, there are a lot of people that for one reason or another, they believe that they're not good in math and they don't like math. And they're very, vocal about it too. I mean, if you notice in many places, people readily talk about that aspect. We have adults that, and especially in elementary school or even in junior high or high school, a lot of young kids look up to the adults. And if you hear a coach that is really you look at as God. I mean, this I want to grow up and be like him, or I want to be like this teacher or that teacher, because they inspire you, right?
Right.
And yet they are talking about the fact that they don't like math, they don't like science, they never need it. So it kind of makes it difficult for people to embrace some of these uh, subjects. What is your view on that? Because I have found that, from my perspective, that those are big barriers. When you look at adults very easily talking in the hallways or
right.
themselves with those issues.
So that's the problem where people think that, something like math ability is something innate, and genius is something innate, and intelligence is something innate. It really is, motivation combined with experience, For some reason, that child's motivated and that child is not. And if somebody has a good experience in school, they're probably going to be more motivated. And the child that has bad experience in school is probably going to be less motivated. I remember a movie called, well, first of all, I don't like the teacher movies, where the teacher comes in and saves the world. But the one that I really liked was based on a true story. It's called Stand and Deliver.
Yeah.
It was about Jaime Escalante.
Yeah.
And he went in and taught calculus to the children who, were still counting on their fingers, And he was, anyway, the movie inspired me to find out more about him. And he really has an inspiring story. So the one thing that he made the point was that, these kids are leaving high school. They don't know what's going to be awaiting them, and in the back of their mind, they got some ideas about what job they want, and one student wanted to work on cars, and Jaime Escalante told them, well, if you know this calculus, you could be designing cars, and it took him to a whole new level. That's one of the problems, I think, with American education is, number one, they think everything is innate. No, mostly skills come from training. Math is a skill. Math can be, trained. And the second thing is that they are not given a goal to work towards. Like Jaime Escalante told them, you've got this goal, You can work towards that goal, and education is going to get you there. Math is going to get you there. So I think in America, we really have to emphasize what happens after high school. High school cannot just be a warehouse, keep the kids there for 6 to 8 hours a day. It has to be telling them where they're going to in the future, and really be like a bridge to that future that the student really can relate to.
Yeah, so, absolutely right. Because I think part of really great connection with individuals is one, having the passion to teach. I think sometimes
Exactly.
we have wonderful qualified teachers that
Mhm.
they know how to teach and they have the education, but when you don't have the passion, when you don't have the commitment, you really can't connect with the kids. And if you have the
Mhm.
passion and connections, then it's important to kind of find the ways that you can make the relevancy of the material to the real world. Where are the
Mhm.
applications of math or geography or history or any subject that you're teaching with the kids? How can you use it in life? And when the
Right.
kids know the application, it just makes it more fun and exciting to learn it, right? And I do remember
Mhm.
this Palante, and he, really is his story, not only in the movie, in the real life, what he has inspired many teachers, not only in mathematics, but
Exactly.
in
Yeah.
every area on how
Yeah.
to be is something I would if anybody hasn't seen that movie, I highly recommend. These days you can go online and look it up, and I think it's not only in America but I think all over the world.
Mhm.
The world is changing right before us,
Yeah.
and we do need to make education fun and relevant, because what kids need to know today is a lot more than when I went to school or when you went to school, because the knowledge and the complexity of the world is far beyond what we were experiencing. So to
Yeah.
be well prepared, you need to know more, you need to be better prepared, and that's
Mhm.
the work that we all
Exactly.
are involved with. So let me just follow up on that.
Yeah.
You have had wonderful career in education. You have had number of teachers that you have had throughout your journey to this point. You again have taught with many great educators. I have the pleasure of knowing firsthand about you and what you contributed. So what are some of the things that teachers can do to make their classroom, their education more relevant and more exciting for the kids? Give us like two or three examples of what teachers can do to make students more excited about their courses.
Okay. Another person that I admire is, I hope I got her name right, Anne Brown. She's founded what she calls the community of learners. And one of the foundations for the community of learners is peer tutoring. So the students that get the catch on quickly to the subject become the tutors for the children who need more time. And the community of learners, that's one basis. You don't just have stars and the people who are like turtles walking along. No, if you catch the information quickly, catch the topic quickly, then those students are assigned to as tutors. And also, I did a study of what they did in Korea. Somewhere in the 70s, I believe it was, when they expanded public education for all social classes, and they said, "Well, how is this going to work?" And they came up with this mastery learning program, which involved peer tutoring. And when they evaluated peer tutoring in that situation, they found that it was not interfering with the education of the more brilliant students. It was actually enhancing what they knew. Those children, could learn basics really quickly. If you advance them to another class or another level, they learn the basics very quickly, but they weren't enriching what they knew. By tutoring, they were enriching what they knew, and they're encouraging the younger, slower, or less able students to do well. So I think peer tutoring and this concept of a community of learners could really help in American schools. It's in the literature. There's lots of research on peer tutoring, lots of research on how to make mastery learning work. But I think what I've I've seen with studying Anne Brown's community of learners, they really have been able to apply those things, and that kind of concept should be expanded.
Yeah, and
Another
there are
thing,
a
I
lot
think,
of I'm sorry. There is a lot of study about, how students really actually learn quite a bit from each other within a class environment if you coach them in that fashion. Just wanted to kind of share that with you. I have read several different, studies in that regard. So you're absolutely correct.
mhm. Also, I think developmental education. Is that the right word? I think developmental education has taken on a new meaning. But if we apply the principles of child development to grade school education, there would be many more things that people would be, school would be very, very different. Number one is language. We wait until the child's in high school before they take on a second language. Whereas the ability to pick up a second language is more lively before the age of 7. So if a grade school emphasized learning a second language, the child would be more adept at it as they grew older. Instead, the ability to pick up a second language drops very quickly after the age of 14. And yet that's the year that we start teaching them the second language. It doesn't make sense. Also, computer skills. People think computer skills are necessary for a job. Why do you have to teach a grade school student computer skills? Again, it's it's like language. They pick up languages earlier in life than later in life. So all the good things that happen in grade school could be enhanced by teaching computer languages, which is going to be very necessary, in their future too. Again, knowing computer language can give hints to high school students where their direction's going, where their career could be heading, and if the high school students are inspired, then the middle school students are going to be inspired, and the elementary students will be inspired too. So I think, we really have to emphasize that, education does have this purpose. So we also feed into vocational education, which is one of those things that we don't have enough of in America.
And going on that same topic, just following up on what you said, and I think making education fun and relevant is important. And
Right.
I think part of this is not only our kids, because the kids adopt to technology a lot easier than adults because they're growing up with this technology, and it's second nature to them. But teachers sometimes find it more difficult adopting to technology. I mean, because of this pandemic and what we went through, many educators went online, and for a big segment of the group, this was a very new experience. While our children all over the world had a much easier time adopting to the technology. I think we need to spend more time with the teacher training and making sure our professors and our teachers in all grades are comfortable with technology and really see it as a tool that can help and assist them in nurturing and supporting the students. I think it goes a long way. So now let me ask you, if I may, your perspective on the school, right? What are some of the things the schools can do in supporting the teachers and the students to have a more dynamic learning environment?
Oh, well, I think that teachers should have a little bit more autonomy in their classroom. But with that, also, I think that parents should have some say in who their student's teacher is going to be, which, sounds nasty, but if the parents all want this one teacher, then people realize, oh, that teacher must be good. And the other teachers will say, I want to learn from that teacher. So the popular teachers, I mean, popular among parents, would really be inspiring to everybody else in the school. School administration has to support the teacher, and in that sense, teachers' autonomy. The administration can't just come down and say, you have to do it this way. Too often there's a program in the school, and it's the administrators who decide that program's going to be there, and has nothing to do with what the teacher's doing in the classroom. And the teacher has to conform to providing students with that program. Okay, well, we like a new curriculum. Maybe somebody's alma mater has come up with an interesting new curriculum for one particular topic, and without testing it, without modifying it for the local school, the administration comes down and tells the teachers, you're going to teach this way. You're going to use this curriculum that was developed by this research institute or by this university, without really taking into consideration who the teacher is, what the teacher wants to do, who the students are. So that's also a big problem, administration telling teachers what to do, whereas it should be the teachers telling administration what the teacher needs in order to do a good job with these students.
Well, this is a very nice conversation, because again, as a consultant, I have gone and I have faced this, because I get teachers complaining about the fact that, administration is coming down, wants us to do all of these. They hardly ever ask us what we think, and we're supposed to do it. We're the soldiers. And then I hear the other side of it as, administrators talking about, they have this from the school district that requires them to do that, or the fact that this is accreditation agency that wants them to go based on a certain, parameters and so on and so forth. But, a lot of time, Ray, what gets lost in here is the fact, what about the student, right?
Right.
And that's why students can't relate a lot of times to the subjects that is being taught. So, yeah, adults maybe have more experience about things, but everything is changing all the time.
Yeah.
So what they don't put in consideration is the interest and the, in a sense, capacity of the students and their particular, background. So when you really look at these, is maybe more of one side versus another. Now, most of the time, they forget about the students and only they mention it when there is, something that goes wrong.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how can you create a dynamics that really the students is the centerpiece, right? Because we all, if you take the student out of any school, it doesn't matter, is a elementary school or a junior high, high school, college, university, it doesn't matter. You take the students out of a school, you don't have anything.
Right.
It's all the school because of the students, right? So whatever we do, it seems like it has to be something that works for the students. So how can we really think differently and come up with a way? I'm not saying just ask the student, what do you like to learn? And let's just do it, like every day, what's your interest is, but somehow to consider, like what you said, teachers having more role into it, administrators have to, comply with various, standards that they're, are responsible for, but get the students' interest involved as well, and what they really are striving to become and have an interest. How would a system like that work out? Have you seen any studies, or have you done any study in that regard?
Well, people don't like testing, but I worked with the SAT, and the students that were involved in training for the SAT did really well. And it wasn't just, take the test and then forget everything. But when they trained and they took the test over and over again, they tended to do really well. Also, it was like, translate that into the grade school. When kids take tests every day, I understand that, but there's some kind of monitoring, so that every time the child is moving ahead, there could be some kind of, loud cheer or something, so the test question that the child could never pass before all of a sudden does, there should be some kind of recognition. And, overall, just constantly recognizing where they are going. Testing is the thing that I really am interested in is that we know that the more society uses, how shall I say this? The Flynn effect is that over the years, we've been using intelligence tests, and each generation gets better and better. And I think it's because the society is recognizing what is intelligence more and more, and how to encourage intelligence and how to encourage understanding these tests. I think that school can be like that, so people say tests aren't real, but in my case, I found that yes, they are. I studied Shakespeare on my own, and I didn't really seem to be a Shakespeare genius, but I walked into that test with no formal experience, and I did pretty good. At least I passed it. But students can understand the purpose for testing and understand that they're showing how good they are through taking tests. The tests can be improved and refined and moved forward so that they can see that, I'm getting better every day, instead of what we have today, where people feel like, oh no, I can't possibly pass that test. I'm going to have to, give up on schooling because I can't pass tests. But find out why the student can't pass the test, and make refinements to the class so that he or she can learn. Everybody knows somebody with test anxiety, where they know everything, but when they sit down to take the test, they don't do well. So for people like that, it's easy enough to modify to look at real life situations. My brother had a class one time, and it was like something. He was studying engineering, but they wanted him to know something about, let's say, literature. So the teacher looked at them the first day and said, all of you are engineering students, and this is literature class, so all you want to do is to be able to talk about literature in a cocktail party. So our final exam will be a cocktail party, and you have to convince me you know enough about literature. So, test does not necessarily have to be sitting down taking a pencil paper. Monitoring doesn't have to be with somebody with a clipboard, but we should really have some kind of understanding of where a student is going, how that student is making progress by, attending school or the class or the course that they're involved in.
No, I totally agree. Look, we want to have not only, the thing is, there are certain aspects, again, that if you don't test, and I think on a mastery basis, and you don't have competence, then the whole world wouldn't work well. If you have a doctor that wasn't tested, would you feel comfortable having them do surgery on you? Or if you have a pilot that wasn't tested, would you be comfortable flying on their plane? So there are many things, right? And then teachers, would you want to have a teacher that hasn't been tested with their knowledge, and now they're in charge of educating others? So there are tests that I do agree, maybe not as often as we do it sometime, but it's necessary to create benchmark and mastery for various knowledge. But having said that, I think what my point was, we do need to come in and get more of a 360-degree perspective to help, I think, our education. And that's what I hear from you, that you want more input from the teachers, you want more input from the administrators, parents, and the students. And I think that's the part
Thank
that
you.
I see a lot of times is missed.
Mhm.
All the adults get together and decide what they should do for the kids, especially in K through 12, and even in higher education, without considering the interest and the passion of the individual. And I think if we did, we could maybe make a big stride in uh, improving the education experience of.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I really enjoy our discussion, and I wanted to ask you one last question, and that has to do with mentoring, right?
Mhm.
Because I know throughout our own professional life we have talked about this. How important do you think mentoring is, and how could schools incorporate that for their teachers, their staff, their students, and have a program where individuals get introduced to this concept, if you think can have value and improve educational experience?
Oh, yeah. I said that I don't think America has enough focus on vocational education. Another problem is there's not enough emphasis on exploring the world of work. So mentors could help, especially with high school students, help them understand how what they're studying in school is going to be applied to the world of work. Students, they look out there and they see that there's different professions and they don't know how they could go from being a sophomore, in high school to becoming somebody like that who does that kind of job. So mentoring could be very good. I don't think bringing in somebody to teach this troubled student to get them out of being a troubled student is the best use of the mentor. But if there's somebody who has been in the world of work, world of business, and can come in, relate to what the child wants to do, and teach them overall, being overall tutor for them in different topics, the student could then see how each topic has something to do with what they're going to be doing as an adult.
No, absolutely. And what do you think about like the staff or teachers or administrators to have mentors and use that as a program that is more than just a suggestion, but the structure that the school can
Mm.
incorporate in improving educational experience for everybody?
Oh, yeah. So, as I said before, the popular teacher would probably be the one that's most effective. So, if you identify that teacher, he or she could be the trainer of others. I think they would have people who want to go to their classroom and examine what they're doing and, exemplify them. Also, an interchange of teachers. So, the best teacher at one elementary school could go over to another elementary school and just just presenting new ideas in student teachers could really be an effective way of mentoring. So there are master teachers out there. If we can identify who they are, they could come as mentors to the teachers who want to do well but don't know where to begin.
Well, I can tell you I have enjoyed very much this opportunity with you. And last word for our audience that you want to live with. And I before that, I want to tell you how much I appreciate your presence here, and your collaboration, and working together. I have enjoyed very much the same.
Thank you. My last word is that just like the student in the fourth grade math class, giving up anxiety, giving up fear has really helped me, get started on my career in education. I was fearful when I first started college. I gave it up. I gave up the fear and just went forward, you know. So I would really encourage anyone, you know, feel the fear, but do it anyway, whatever it is they want to challenge.
Thank you very much, Ray. Have a great day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aldi. Great.